Welcome to sunny Kiefer, Oklahoma. This is my laboratory, guys. This has hills, it has broken concrete, it has some kind of ratty looking roads, has some narrow roads. It does have some gravel, which we'll be avoiding today. We'll save that for adventure time. But yeah, we have just a little bit of everything. We have some tight turns, we have decreasing radiuses, we have gravel that's spilled out onto the tarmac. So we have a lot to work with today, and I just love it. It's beautiful out here. Eastern Oklahoma is... a lot of it's flat around here. There are some hilly spots. Thankfully, I live near one of these hilly ones. All right, now let's hit this thing. Remember that I am a newbie. I need to remind you guys that I have been riding for only a year, about once a week. So I haven't done a whole bunch of stuff, but I've been trying to be diligent. I spend a lot of time in parking lots trying to do all the low-speed maneuvers, and I've tried to be really just precise about what I do. And I don't waste time on the bike. I try to spend my time learning new things, figuring new things out. All right, so as we get here into traffic, this is a great time to talk about some of the good things about... Oh, actually, I should mention how I'm going to have to keep my helmet closed. One of the things about the stock Versys X 300 is that little windscreen is just teeny tiny, and it puts a lot of the wind just right on my face. It makes the experience really loud. So in order for me to talk to you, I'm going to have my windscreen all the way down. The clutch is super duper light and easy to use. A great beginner clutch in some ways, but like I mentioned in the breakdown review, there are some reasons why it's kind of bad for beginners. It's actually pretty difficult to do some of the low-speed maneuvers because it's really difficult to half clutch. You can't feel it. However, when you get out into areas like this, it's really nice because the one thing on me that I've taken a couple long trips so far over the course of a year, the one thing on me that has not gotten tired is my left hand. You can just pull this clutch all day. It's just quick between gears. It has a very nice sporty feel to it. All right, I'm in third gear, doing about, let's get down to 25 miles an hour. This is a tiny little engine, like I mentioned, that really only makes power up top, but we're gonna go ahead and crank it. Going up this hill. This is the steepest hill in the region. And yeah, there's some power. It'll pull me up it. You saw I was kind of far down on the revs, but no, it works. I should probably take it a little easy. There are houses around here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how this handles since we have a couple of nice tight little corners here. Again, just really easy to use. This is a high bike, so you do sit kind of high up over the road. Usually my head is about level with guys that are driving their big old SUVs. We're roughly the same height. Great for visibility, I'll say that. Everybody can see each other. But despite that big height, it kind of wants to handle like what I assume a sport bike wants. Again, you're looking at a total noob. I've ridden a total of 3 bikes. I've ridden an ancient, I think it was a Yamaha or Honda. It was like a 1978 dual sport kind of thing. That's what I got to ride that for an hour. That was my first exposure to motorcycles when I was about 35 or so. And then 10 years later, I took the MSF and got myself this motorcycle. So yeah, the second motorcycle was a Harley Street 500. I really enjoyed it. Great little bike. I thought that it handled really well. I loved its controls. I liked how its clutch felt. It just wasn't the bike for me. I'm not after a cruiser. I wanted something that I can take out into the brush. The more I thought about it and tried to figure out, okay, what kind of bike do I want? The more I realized I'm a backpacker, I'm a camper, I'm a hunter, and you know, if I got to bring home a bag full of squirrels, it's not going to be on a Harley. It's going to be on something like this. All right, so here we have some undulating roads. Got some cracks in the pavement. It's going to get worse as we go along, but the suspension is holding up really well. Now I got to come back to what I was talking about before. Yeah, I was talking about its handling. It is relatively quick and stable and planted all at the same time. One of the reasons why this feels probably more stable than your average sport bike would is that it has the spoked wheels that are quite heavy, and it's got a 19-incher up front, so there's quite a bit of rotating mass. It's going to have a really strong gyroscopic stability to it, and so yeah, it's probably not going to dip into corners quite the same way as the Ninja 300 that has this same engine. That one's going to be lower to the ground. It's going to have the smaller wheels, the lighter wheels, and yeah, it should just be a much better performer for stuff like that. However, I'm really happy with how this feels. Again, you know, lack of contrast, but I enjoy it. All right, now we're coming up to a stop sign, and here's another place where the clutch comes into its own. I'm in 6th, now I'm in 5th gear. All right, so we're gonna row down through the gears. And there we are, got down into 1st. Light, quick, smooth, easy to use, and especially in concert with that shifter down there, very confidence inspiring. So those of you that are looking for that first bike, this could be an excellent choice for you. All right, here we go, some more downshifts. Oh my gosh, that is so easy. Love it. That whole time I was on the brake. Yeah, the nice light, quick clutch makes it really easy to step up and start to accelerate. If you have to get onto the highway, no issue at all. It's really, really quick. Not like other bikes, of course. It is a 296cc engine. But you gotta remember this comes out of that 300 Ninja. So it's not a normal 300cc bike. Yeah, this one does ramp up pretty quickly. And because it has that high rev line, you can see back there, get up to about 12,000 RPM. That's where it makes its power. And like I mentioned in the other review, the one where I was talking about the parts and just kind of walking around the bike, yes, it's a small engine, but because of that high rev and because of the way that its cylinders are configured, where it's kind of under square, you have a 62 millimeter bore, if I remember right, and a 49 millimeter stroke. Yeah, it allows you to rev really, really high. And in the end, just the way that Kawasaki has the cam set up and stuff, this dual overhead cam, it makes a very linear power delivery. So even down low, you would think it'd be without power, and it mostly is, but no, it's actually just a nice curve that goes like this. It's just like the Honda S2000 engine. If any of you guys ever got to drive one of those, the Honda S2000 had this peculiar engine. It made a lot of horsepower, 240, 245, from a little 2-liter or 2.2-liter four-banger, and its torque curve looked like this. It's like the 350Z that I had, it kind of ramped up more and then started to taper off some. Got much more instant torque. But the S2000, it went like this, and it was still just a whole lot of fun to drive. A little bit harder to do a burnout, I guess, but that was a very capable car, and that's kind of how I consider this. It's kind of like an S2000. Small engine, but just more capable than you expect. All right, here we go into some fun twisties. This is nice new tarmac that they just laid down recently, and this is a good chance to talk about how I'm seated right now, how comfortable this is. And there's some of that gravel I was talking about that might end up coming down onto the road in a couple places. But yeah, new tarmac, feels good. But yeah, seating position. This is one that you can sit ramrod straight if you like. I usually find myself just a little bit more relaxed than that. Handlebar width, like I mentioned in the other review, I don't exactly know what the handlebar width is. I don't know what's better, if it should be a little bit narrower or it should be a little bit wider. All I know is that everything about this seating position just feels totally natural to me. To me, this is more comfortable than sitting in an office chair in a lot of ways. I've got my heels, got my ankles right under me. Let's see what we got here. Okay, just a nice smooth turn. I got my heels just barely in front of my hips. Now I could actually move around on this seat, it's pretty big. I could pick different spots. I could sit more up on the tank. I could be more toward the back of the saddle. The one thing that I'll say about the saddle, well, I got a couple things to say about it. It is, at first I found it pretty comfortable. Like I could go pretty long distances, and that was in winter. In winter, I had more padding in my butt. You know, I had more clothing on underneath my riding pants. And to me, I thought it was pretty darn comfortable. I could go, maybe 2.5 hours or so before it started kind of cloying at me and I had to move around a little bit. But it's got a decent amount of squish to it. The one thing that I wish, because I'm just a bigger guy, is that maybe it should be a little bit wider for me. My bones don't hit it just right. But I still don't have much to complain about. Here we go. Here's a good tight one. Yeah, on this nice fresh tarmac. Now you're gonna see that I'm not pushing it today. I'm not gonna be hitting high speeds. I'm not gonna be doing anything risky. That's just me. That's the way that I roll. I may be wearing a shirt that says safety second, which by the way, you can find the link to that if you go to the Saddle Sore Saga website. I have links to all the weird stuff that I wear, also all my favorite camping gear. Like I said, I am a long-time camper and backpacker. So I've got a lot to say on that subject. But I'll have all kinds of other stuff on the site as well. So you should pop in every once in a while. It's also going to keep track of this Saga as we go along and keep everything in order. All right, now this is one that I remember. This is where we always have gravel coming down from one of these driveways. Not too bad today. Yeah, it's not bad at all. It used to be worse before they paved this. All right, so we were talking about seating position anyway. My legs are just nicely notched into the cutouts in the side of the tank. I'm well protected from the wind, as we're going to get into is when we hit the highway a little bit later. So we're going to do kind of a little bit of a high-speed pull. And yeah, for long distances, it's quite nice on the legs. I have a pretty good bend in my leg. It's a little tighter than 90 degrees. So after a few hours, yeah, it starts to get a little cloying, and I feel like I need to stretch my legs out, which is kind of hard at highway speeds. Let's see what we got. Okay. A little bit of gravel. And here we get into the old road. All right. So this is the old beat up stuff. And this is one of the ways that, okay, I'm going to hit this. Not only is it pretty easy to avoid some of the potholes and things in the road, but the way this suspension is set up, a little bit on the softer side for off-roading, it's quite pleasant to be going over things like speed bumps, chuck holes and things. It's not too bad. All right, so let's talk about the pegs. The pegs themselves, to me, feel pretty wide, and they felt that way even from the beginning, even though, you know, as a new rider, I was feeling very tenuous. I felt a tenuous connection to the bike, not feeling super secure. It's just weird to be exposed to the elements like this at first. Now let's give it some more revs, come on. This is my favorite kind of road. It's messed up, bumpy, narrow, there's no shoulder, canopy coming up over the road. I love it. And this is more of what I want to find. But yeah, even on stuff like this, those pegs, since they're nice and wide, I feel pretty darn secure on them. They're pretty good to step on. And they have those squishy rubber inserts that help to mitigate some of the buzz that comes from this little parallel twin engine. Which, by the way, I've talked about this before, there really isn't as much buzz as you would expect. It sounds like maybe some other engines and some other manufacturers don't do it quite as well as this. The mirrors do get a little bit of a vibration in them, depending on what range you're at, or if you're accelerating or not. Yeah, what your revs are, what your speed is. They're going to be bouncing around a little bit, but overall they're pretty darn clear. you can see what the maker of the vehicle is behind you. As for the hands, my hands have never gone numb except from the cold. I think the coldest I've been out in so far was about 24 degrees, so I need something a little heavier than these mesh gloves. These are great for summer all the way around. No complaints about these. Again, I'm going to have them linked on the Saddle Source Saga website. You can get direct links to the gear that I use, or close equivalents if they've stopped making some of these things. All right, so rear brake. Right now, since we're on a bit of a hill behind me, I'm standing on the rear brake, and it's not the easiest thing to use. I've talked about this before. There's just a lot of play before it starts to do much of anything, and you have to stand on it pretty hard. This might be something that I can tweak just by changing the position of some screws. It is an adjustable lever back there, and it might also need to be bled. I don't know exactly what happened to this bike before I bought it. It seems to have been very lovingly maintained. Yeah, maybe one of the brakes got, like, maybe they did something with the disc or something. Maybe they swapped something out, got a little air in the system. It doesn't really feel like it does that much. And I'm gonna need that when we get into the outdoor sections. You see this combo that we have going on right here? 6th gear, 5th gear, somewhere in there, and then hanging out in the mid-40s, up into the mid-50s, somewhere in there. And that's where this bike just really loves to hang out. It loves to go slower too, but this seems to be where we get the best gas mileage. And you can see that right now we have an estimated 308 miles of range. I just topped up the tank before we left. And I've already put about maybe 10 miles on it getting it out here. Yeah, it's giving me an estimation of over 300 miles, and that's pretty rocking. Oh, I know where we are. I've been out here on a few different excursions, and this is going to turn to gravel here in a second, and it's going to get, I don't know, it's not quite interesting enough. So I think I'm actually going to pull a U, go back, and we'll hit something different. Yeah, let's do it. There we go. All right, there we are going up to the 12,000 RPM. 60 miles an hour. That was going uphill, not too much of a slouch, huh? How quick is it to get this into a lower gear so that we can quickly pass a vehicle or something? Oh, it's just like this. No trouble at all. Super quick. All of the shifts are just really snappy. It feels like a good trigger. It's light, it's crisp, and I can feel everything. Like I mentioned in the standalone review where I was just walking around the bike and talking about it, I have had a couple incidents with it. Of course, I've always, I've hit neutral accidentally down the, trying to go from first to second, I accidentally end up in neutral. I'm sure that happens to all of us. It's just kind of a training thing. But I have also had some false neutrals between 4th and 5th. I've had 2 of them precisely, and they both happened on the exact same day. Don't know exactly what happened. Maybe the bike was feeling temperamental. That's the only time it's done that. Nah, it's probably me. I did it all wrong. All right, now I'm looking for a road that heads us to the south, because there's a pretty cool little hilly section coming up here. Because the gears are so close together, a lot of the time, especially in the early days, I found myself shifting down between 2 gears. So instead of going 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I would go down 6, 4, 2, hang out there, and then down into 1. That was a perfectly fine way to do things. Now I did mention that I was going to talk about the spacing between the gears. This is a little teeny engine with, an anemic amount of horsepower, relatively. It's still a quick little thing. But compared to other motorcycles, yeah, it doesn't have much. But it has 6 gears, and that's kind of strange, isn't it? It really needs those 6 gears. I think we need to kind of change our mindset on some of this stuff, because it makes total sense. If I want to be if I want to have the correct torque for going up a hill, you know, kind of getting my power right along with my revs, making sure I'm not lugging the engine, and just all those little things, getting my throttle in the right position, then yeah, it's really smart to have more options, being able to kind of flick through those gears. And people have talked about how they would prefer, especially to have the gears a little bit more expansion based, so less reduction, that the first gear wasn't quite so low, and that the sixth gear was a little bit higher.
A stop sign is distracting Kyle, so I will take over. Changing the gearing would probably not improve the Versys. Remember that this motor is not torque-rich down low. It needs a very low gear to handle steep slopes, especially off-road. And on the high end, the motor does not develop enough horsepower to push it through the air at high speeds. It will zip up to 80 miles per hour or so, but beyond that, it has to dig deep for every extra mile per hour. The air is just too thick for it to handle. It is very unlikely that a higher sixth gear or a set of expansion sprockets would solve that issue.
Ooh, now this is interesting. Let's take a left and see where this goes. That is one of my favorite things about motorcycle riding. I'm not so concerned about the price of gas. I don't have a cage around me, so I'm not, you know, stuck in here looking out at scenery. I'm feeling all of it. I'm smelling all of it. And that is, yeah, one of my favorite things, being able to smell everything out here. Freshly cut grass, fallen leaves, cow pastures. I know it's weird. I love that smell. It reminds me that I'm out in the country. Heck, I like the smell of skunk, because it tells me I am not in the city, and that's exactly where I don't want to be. All right, now, what about braking power? Ugh. I didn't give it quite enough beans. Let's try that again. Let's get a good stop going. Okay. Feels pretty good to me. Remember that this is a light bike, and that affects its braking, its handling. Taking away weight fixes a whole lot of things, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like this motorcycle so much. And I'm, you know, not too keen to swap it out for anything else. Here we go, some fun hills. This is going to turn into a little bit of switchback stuff here in a bit. But yeah, lightness cures a lot. It also makes it easy to handle when it's completely stopped. So when you're trying to pick it up, like maybe I've dropped it a couple times in like dirt once, and then one time, well, I'll tell you that story later. Oh, this is just too much fun. I'm going to shut up. Slow down a little bit, scrub off some speed. There we go. I don't like to push it too much. You never know when someone's dog's going to be in the road or something. Still good fun. Oh, here we have some gravel on the road. I remember this area. Right mid-bend. That's so mean. There we go, some broken road. Oh yes, I've hit this from the opposite direction. I'm recognizing this now. There's a neighborhood back behind me there. So, is it fun on the roads? Yes. And the little two-finger brake. It's pretty fun to use. Really easy to use the brake. Like I said, back brake sucks. Front brake's pretty good, despite having just one disc. Might feel like I'm flogging the engine a little bit, keeping it up near those highest revs, but that's a little bit more choppy than I thought. That's where the good suspension kicks in. But no, the motor actually likes being up there. Doesn't seem to mind it. Yeah, it gets a bit warm. You can see the temp gauge down there. We got 4 bars right now. It's not exactly a cool day today. So taken all together, as far as a road bike goes, what is this? Is it just a grocery getter? Is it something you can go crazy on the back roads with? Is it just a dentist bike? Something that's not too exciting? I would say that it's, first off, it's not just a beginner bike. A lot of people look at this as a beginner. And I really don't think so. I think this is a bike that I can continue to grow into. It's something that there's potential on here. One of the things I didn't point out so far is that this doesn't have all the gizmos and doodads that you get on some of the bigger, more expensive motorcycles. It doesn't have traction control. This one does have ABS. It's like the one concession that it has, an electronic fuel injection. Aside from that, this is just a pretty basic motorcycle, and you can tell it just by looking at the dash, the fact that you have an analog tack and all that. Pretty simple. No wheelie control, no driving modes or anything. And so this makes me adapt. I have to grow as a rider in order to get the best use out of this. Was it easy to get into it as a beginner? Yeah. I think the only thing that was daunting about it was just its height. It's not a super high adventure bike or anything, not like some of the bigger ones, but it's still, you know, it can be a bit daunting at first to feel that weight, feel it move around. You don't exactly know what to do with it. But I think as far as lightweight adventure bikes go, it's probably one of the easiest to start on. And then, like I say, it just seems to keep growing with me. And as I add parts to it, change it out, and make it more capable, especially in off-road situations, camping and all that, it's just going to become more and more fun. Ooh, this looks interesting. I wonder what this is. This, if it's not a neighborhood, could be pretty rad. Let's see what this is. Oh, look at this, guys. Fresh tarmac. Pretty narrow, no shoulder. Just got grass and trees. This is so cool. I have never been on this road before. And you saw how I did that downshift just before the corner. That was before the bike was, you know, starting to lean over or anything. You have to do a lot of that with this little engine if you want to stay in the happy rev band. Oh, this is awesome. Hey, cows. Yeah, just a dab of brakes, some maintenance throttle. This one might be a tad sharp. Let's take a look. Oh, I got some gravel on the road. I don't know if that's a road or a driveway. I live in Oklahoma and I don't want to get shot, so I'm going to assume it's a driveway. And we'll go back this way, but that was super fun. All right, it's difficult to condense down exactly what this motorcycle is. The Versys X 300, in my opinion, is just light, simple fun. And if you're into that kind of thing, you're going to love this. My favorite car in the whole wide world is the Mazda Miata. If I could have anything, I'd have the Mazda Miata. And you may be, you know, looking at all kinds of bigger, flashier, more expensive things that have super duper suspension and massive engines and stuff. But have you ever driven that Miata? They are something that you can take anywhere pretty much. Maybe they're not the greatest off-road, and we'll see if this motorcycle is. But the Miata is just, it's just fun because it throws out everything you don't need. It throws out tons of trunk space. It throws out weight. Weight is the killer. If you want to have yourself a good time, trim down. It's just an athletic, fun little thing that wants to go everywhere that I want to go. This is going to be my steed, my modern steed that takes me out into the great outdoors. And I cannot wait for all the adventures that are going to come on this. Stay with me here in the Saddle Sore Saga, and also stay here in this video because we're going to do a quick pull on the highway. All right, once we get a break in the traffic behind us, we're going to do kind of a quick pull. Actually, this is good right now. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, how about if we be in gear? That'd be nice. Yeah, we got a bit of a log jam back there. So as soon as it clears up a little bit, again, I'm not good at launching bikes yet. I was okay at sports cars, you know, because you can have a little slip there and it works just fine. This one's probably going to wheelie instead, even though it is small. I've heard that you can do a nice clutch wheelie. Oh, here we go. I think this dude's turning. Yes, let's go. You can do a wheelie. That was a bit much. Whoops. Baby's first wheelie. Let's try that again. That was awful. I hit red line on second, and that was going uphill, so keep that in mind. All right, so highway manners. Right now I've got a pretty good crosswind from my left, and you might be able to see a little lean in the bike. It just kind of automatically does that. This is one that, even though it is lightweight, and even though it has a really big, you know, profile, a good cross-section, and I've got my huge cross-section sticking up too, it actually feels really good on the highway. It doesn't get blown around too badly. So I guess I better go speed. But I think it's something to do with the weight of the wheels. That gyroscopic effect, it just helps to keep the bike pointed in the right direction. Love it. But yeah, it's very stable on the highway, and I've done some long distance work on it, but it doesn't really want to be there. Yeah, I can do it. It has enough speed that you can get to the 80 miles an hour that's required here in Oklahoma. I mean, you don't have to go 80, but some of our turnpikes are 80 miles an hour, and this one will go up there and hang out there. It's fine. But it doesn't really like it. That's getting up toward the edge of its power band. It's killing the gas mileage. It's just murder on the gas mileage. And you can see that whatever we've done today, we've knocked it down quite a bit. We haven't gone that far. But yeah, we're having a little bit of fun. And you can see it creeping right back up. It kind of depends on what your most recent driving style was. Let's see what our average is. It still should be hanging out around, okay, now we're doing about 80. There we go, yeah. We're still maintaining about 60 miles to the gallon. Multiply that by 4.5 gallons, and you got a pretty good distance. I hope you got kind of a taste of what this is like. It just feels light, easy, fun to use, and that's my whole takeaway on this. If I want to get out on a Sunday morning, or not Sunday morning, we're going to church, Saturday morning, and just unwind, have some fun, just me in the road, me in the wind. It's wonderful. And the cool thing about Kawasaki is it's always just ready to go when I pop into the garage. Check tire pressure. Okay, fine, do the full T-clocks if you want to, but then I just, you know, head out really quickly. And I can be immediately having a good time. Thanks a lot for welcoming me to the motorsports world. I grew up entirely without motorcycles or, you know, power sports of any kind. And now that I'm an old man, at 46 years old, I have discovered that I really love it. And it probably is best that I didn't have access to it when I was younger. I've always been that kid that was born old. A little too responsible. But thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you check out the upcoming episodes, because we're going to be increasing things. We're going to be adding parts to the bike. We're going to be trying out all kinds of different maneuvers. And then once we get done with all the road maneuvers, and I can prove to Kiki that I know what I'm doing.
Good luck, slacker.
Yeah, shut up, Kiki. Once I can prove to her that we're good, then we'll get to go off-road. Can't wait. See you around.